Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani, and this is America's Mayor Live on the second day of January in the new year of our Lord 2025. Okay, so we're moving along in 2025 as we get ready for the big event, which is the inauguration of President Donald J. Trump. But of course, we've had some shocking events to ring in the new year. Usually it's the celebration at Times Square and the celebrations all over the world, some of which we brought to you on New Year's Eve as they happened. And then all of a sudden, unbeknownst to us, there was this man with an Islamic ISIS flag in the back of his truck, Mr. Din Jabbar, who was planning for a while, we don't know how long, to commit a terrorist act of a very serious nature and to blow up numerous people in the middle of the New Year's celebration in the city of New Orleans, where they were about to not only celebrate the New Year's and were in the throes of that, but they were getting ready for a major college football game, probably the most focused on of the bowl game eliminations to the national championship, largely because both schools, Notre Dame and Georgia, have huge, gigantic followings. So the city of New Orleans was going to be overwhelmingly crowded, as it is every New Year's, just about. And this one was going to be added to substantially by a bowl game that probably doesn't quite draw what the Super Bowl draws, but comes close. And the Super Bowl isn't also competing with New Year's. So it was a big event. Um, we described it yesterday. Today, the FBI has changed its tune quite a bit. Yesterday, we started on the wrong foot with the FBI agent. Hard to interpret what she said, Ted, but it sounded like she said it wasn't a terrorist attack. It was a kind of confused set of statements. Um, I, I, Very hard to understand the confusion, and I'll tell you why. I mean, if you look at the attack later on, a few hours later in Las Vegas. Oh, now, Ted. So let's play what she says, so we don't not unfair to her. Let me hear it if I can.
The investigative lead for this event. This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive devices that was found. Kirkpatrick said we'll be taking over the investigative lead for this event. This is not a terrorist event.
Well, I mean, I would say I heard faintly it is not a terrorist event. Am I correct? Did I hear that? Well, let's not spend an awful lot of time on this, except to say it is very hard to understand at that point in time when you had the following facts presented to you. A man drove through, albeit substitute barricades, but past the police. He drove at a big truck into a narrow street called Bourbon Street at 3 or so in the morning. He drove at a very, very high rate of speed. He cut off a car to get in there. And then he began about 2 blocks into it, he smashed into a car, a red car, which halted wherever he was going. And he began a shootout, which consisted of his having a shootout with the police and shooting some of the civilians. And he also killed some of the civilians who were on the street by virtue of smashing the car into them or something similar to that. At the point that this FBI agent is saying this, that's what she would know. She probably also knew that there were people dead, probably not the 15. Originally, they said 10, but a lot of people injured because she could hear the ambulances pulling people out. Um, and I'd be surprised if she didn't know he had an Islamic flag, an ISIS flag, because it was very prominent in the back of his car and reported almost immediately. So to say it is not a terrorist attack sounds absurd. At a minimum, if you wanted to be careful, you would say it appears to be a terrorist attack. You might even say it appears to be an Islamic inspired terrorist attack, if you really were honest, because of the flag that was there. But you might not, but you certainly wouldn't say not. Now, here's what I think is going on and what this betrays, and why I spent a little time on this. This is not a malignant agent or a Christopher Wray who is really a major criminal. This is a brainwashed a bureaucrat of an FBI agent. I think many have wondered how the FBI went along with all of this. Certainly the ones in close quarters in Washington, but all over the country, the Gestapo type arrests, the ridiculous frame ups of Donald Trump, the obvious admitted cover up of the hard drive to interfere with impeachments, criminal trials, and an election, pursuing Russian collusion after the highest elements of the FBI knew it was untrue. And as it became more and more absurd, the arrests at dawn leaked to CNN with FBI agents dressed up as commandos or whatever the hell they were. Hard to understand how a really tough, independent minded FBI agent put up with this. But they did, a lot of them. Because these were not just violations of a few little rights here and there. This was like ongoing 5 years of the FBI as a rogue law enforcement agency, serving the purposes of being a political law enforcement agency, purely political, a product of the Biden cabal, and maybe its main product in terms of destruction of human rights. I mean, I was the victim of it. They took my iCloud the day I began representing Donald Trump, kept it for 3 years. They burst into my apartment, my law office, and wrote a letter a year and a half later. It didn't do much good, I mean, in terms of all of the damage they did to me, but they wrote a letter to the grand jury saying they found no evidence that I committed a crime. So what the hell did they break in the first place for? They actually said they had no probable cause, which means they lost it sometime between the time they broke in and the time they had to fess up or shut up. And mine is somewhere in the middle of just how outrageous they acted. So here we have an agent saying what she thinks she's supposed to say. This is like when Obama prohibited saying Islamic extremism. Some guy had run in, start shooting people, yelling, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, boom, 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 boom. Was this an Islamic extremist terrorist? We can't tell. Well, of course they could tell. They were just brainwashed into not telling, into deceiving the American people. Now, not much of a deception when the guy's yelling out Allah Akbar, but it tells you something about the biases, the perversity, the corruption, and just how the administration is not acting in the best interest of the protection of the American people. You can't defeat an enemy if you're afraid to name him. Well, the same thing here. She was afraid to call it a terrorist incident. I don't know what had to happen. Some guy had to walk up to her, put a gun to her, and said, "I'm a terrorist. I represent ISIS, and he's doing it for me." Well, they corrected that today. So today it's a terrorist incident. But once again, we're in the hands of the FBI. I mean, they still haven't solved the 2 assassination attempts of Donald Trump to any point where they can explain it. Certainly the first one, in which every mistake was made by the Secret Service that you could make, and a few more. And the guy, it turns out to be the murderer, turns out to be the only person not, who has a public identity of any kind. They don't know diddly squat about him. Um, no accountability, no answers. The second one, no answers about connections or what's going on. No explanation as to the second one, the Secret Service agent, who on the one hand looks like a terrific hero. He shot the guy in the bushes, but he was 5 feet away and he shot him 6 times and missed him. Okay. So now we have him investigating this and beginning on a very bad note. Every child in America would know this was a terrorist attack. There's also something going on now, which I think is very, very strange. They, after saying that this involved other people quite confidently, because they had identified, they said 4 men and a woman who were acting suspiciously. We are now told that he acted alone. Now, I will tell you, as a person who's investigated probably a lot more things than they have, and certainly was a lot more honest about doing it, it's impossible to say that at this stage of the investigation. How do they know they're not going to interview somebody in Houston, where he comes from, who says there's a whole big ring in the Islamic temple 2 blocks from his home? I'm not saying they will. I'm telling you they can't rule that out. It takes a little while to prove a negative if you're ever going to prove it. And you learn in this kind of business that you get surprised. So I can't imagine, other than a brainwashed, trained anti law enforcement agent, who would say at this stage definitively there's nobody else involved. They haven't been investigating really much more than 24 hours. So what's that all about? I mean, Cash Patel has a hell of a job turning them back into a law enforcement agency you can trust. The minute they tell you that, the minute they tell, like right after the first assassination attempt, they acted like it was quite normal for that guy to be on the roof. Every time the president showed, there's a guy on a roof with a gun pointed at him. What the heck? I mean, you miss things like that. Or you go ahead with the event, even though there's a suspicious guy that's been reported and is of great concern to the police. Well, yesterday we showed you quite definitively, which I did not see repeated on any of our brilliant news stations. Maybe they should require that everybody listen to us for at least a 1 hour a day, so you really find out what happened. Now, this is very important because this also bears on, were there other people involved? And maybe you have to forget about this if you want to say no other people were involved. Here's what we know for sure from the video. The white truck, which you've seen many times now, was traveling down Canal Street. We don't know exactly when it got on Canal Street, where it got on Canal Street, but at least a block or two before. Certainly by the time that it hit Chartres Street, named for the great cathedral in France, uh, which I got to see last year, which is 2 blocks away. It was on Canal Street. It was moving it along, it appears as if at a fairly normal rate. But then all of a sudden, as it approached, as it approached Bourbon Street, like the liquor, Bourbon Street, Bourbon. It's a French city, right? Bourbon. The Bourbons were French royalty, but now Bourbon. It quickly made a right-hand turn, cutting cars off, appearing to go up on the further sidewalk and turning in. What we didn't know at the time when we saw it originally, it went through some minor barriers. The permanent barriers had been removed and were being replaced, bollards they call them, with better ones, because the earlier ones were considered too well, I don't know if they were not restrictive enough or they had been over time kind of damaged. So now you see the first of those two. You see the first of those 2 arrows. There are going to be more. So that's Bourbon and Canal. I see it written. Permanent traffic barrier reported not deployed due to maintenance. Well, they were being prepared for the Super Bowl without anyone thinking that maybe the Sugar Bowl and New Year's might be as significant as the Super Bowl. Strike two, strike one. I don't know. Not real smart. Uh, it proceeds through Bourbon Street a bit. Here, I think during the course of this trip through Bourbon Street, passing Iberville and Bienville streets, I think people were hit. We're now seeing some probably private video. Remember, these streets, if you know New Orleans, many of them have these very quaint balconies. Do you recall what I'm saying, Ted? Like little quaint balconies, and
Yes.
and now I've seen people taking video from those balconies. So we might, over a period of time, be able to retrieve a lot of those and see exactly how many people were hit as the vehicle went very fast. It's described as and making a lot of noise somehow. It went through Bourbon Street after it made the turn, past Iberville, past Bienville, and you will see right up here, car crashed. This is as it was approaching Conti Street. It crashed into a vehicle. And then the shooting began. The shooting began with some civilians that were shot and killed and injured. And the shooting with the police, 2 police officers. He was killed. There's where it ended up. There, now you see the picture of it. That's where it ended up, having smashed into the car, which is a little hard. The car it smashed into is a little hard to see, but it was enough to stop its route. Now, it's at this point that he gets shot and killed. So all of the killing ends at this point. So it had to largely have taken place, the 15 or so murders so far and the 35 injuries, largely had to take place in that 2-block drive down Bourbon Street. I don't think he was killing anybody on Canal Street before he got there. I doubt it. So now I want to show you what lies ahead. What lies ahead are 2 more areas of concern. The first one is about a block and a half away. That's in the 600 block of Bourbon Street between Toulouse and St. Peter Street. And there, about a third of the way through the block, they found a concealed pipe bomb in a cooler stashed there. Now that we've heard some, I'm not going to call it evidence. All of this is information. And as I told you yesterday, a lot of this is going to change, particularly as these videos come forward where you'll get more definitive evidence. But somebody put that there. Either he did or somebody else. And if somebody else did it, then this is not a singular act, is it? And maybe if you go talk to the people on Bourbon Street between Toulouse and St. Peter, you may come up with a video that'll tell you the answer to that. Or they may have security cameras also, because we have seen some security cameras. Now, another block ahead, leading to Orleans Street, here, there was a cooler concealing a pipe bomb containing nails. Now, that is a sophisticated Islamic device. I first became aware of that back in the late 1990s and early 2000 in Israel, that they did that quite a bit, and particularly when they attacked places that had teenagers. I think they enjoyed the disfiguring of the young teenagers. I met several, one very, very memorable that I will never forget, who asked me if she'd ever be beautiful again with all the nails that had ripped her face apart. And I told her she would, and she is. And she'd have been beautiful no matter what. But in any event, There also was C4 explosive found there. So there's no doubt further attacks were planned. And he was stopped by hitting that vehicle. He was headed, it had to be that he was headed for at least Orleans Street. Now, have they found all of the hidden devices that might tell you the rest of his route? Have some of those been removed? I mean, from what we know, this route was going to end on Orleans Street, but that doesn't make sense. Now, this would have to mean there are one or two possibilities here, aren't there? Uh, those explosives are there permanently? I guess no. They were put there by him earlier, or somebody else put them there. And I don't know that they have definitively answered that. And even if you definitively answer that, you still haven't answered if this was done alone. He came all the way from Houston. He was in an Islamic crowd that may or may not have been extremists there. He certainly was. They might have helped him. And this looks like he got help. I don't know how you say it appears that he acted alone, unless I'm missing something and they have definitively closed off the source of those two explosive devices. Have they, Ted?
Well,
have they
earlier
have
this
video?
afternoon, investigators are now saying they believe this gentleman did act alone. This is after they had previously said they were looking into whether other people may have helped him.
Said he didn't. Very definitively said he didn't. And interestingly, the sheriff said that, not I think the FBI. But go ahead.
Christopher Rea of the FBI's counterterrorism division said at a news conference earlier this afternoon that we're confident at this point that there are no accomplices. With no further apparent threat, New Orleans officials were actually move to reopen Bourbon Street before the Sugar Bowl, which which was rescheduled
a more
for this
detailed
afternoon.
question, and I wasn't able to get the answer to it. And did they explain the device, the pipe bomb that was placed and waiting on Bourbon Street, a block and a half ahead of him, and then the pipe bomb and the C4 that was waiting 3 blocks ahead of him? Did they explain who put it there?
They are not. So we're digging into this, or
well, you keep going and see if you can say that they have found evidence that was put there by him, or that original report was wrong.
Yeah.
And if it was wrong, why is it wrong? Things do turn out to be different in an emergency. That's a pretty serious one to get wrong. Again, just so you understand this, because it's so important to this. You see that on the map there. Explosive found in the 600 block of Bourbon Street. It was a pipe bomb in a cooler. Then you go ahead another block, and now you have a cooler concealing a pipe bomb, which had nails inside and a suspected C4 explosives, plural. And it was found 27 minutes after the attack. Now, I don't think it sounds awfully definitive. I can't imagine it's wrong. Now, to say that this is absolutely a singular attack, you've got to explain those. Even if you do, I don't know how, again, you can say it's a definitive attack unless you're wishing that it is, which is what the point is. And you got to stop doing this, or we're going to be defeated by terrorism. You cannot defeat your enemy unless you face them. I could not have reduced crime if I weren't honest about it. I'll explain that sometime, but that's the core of the CompStat system. And it's why certain cities, like in Colombia, were remarkably successful in reducing crime. And it's why some cities, even before me, New Orleans tried the CompStat system with Jack Maple, and they miserably failed. I don't know if it's cured, but the city, in terms of its police, It's been a real bad relationship. And I have to say, the police commissioner who was fired, where, Ted? Where was she fired?
Oakland.
Yeah. I don't know that I hire a police commissioner fired in Oakland, but that's me. I was just a very successful mayor who kept my city safe. So we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to engage in the sad task of paying our respects, the necessary but sad task of paying our respects to the people that we can identify right now who were victims of this, who didn't have to die, as is true in all of these terrorist incidents, whether we're talking about back on October 6th or September 11th, or we'll be right back. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep green, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month.
Wow.
Including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with you on America's Mayor Live. I just want to show you a map that appeared today in the newspapers. Now, I'm not blaming the newspapers because they're just taking this from law enforcement. But I want you to notice on that map that something's missing, isn't it? They show Canal Street. They show the turn into Bourbon Street. That's number one. Truck swerves around police SUV and speeds down Bourbon Street. You see about a block and a half, that's what it really represents, into Bourbon Street. Driver mows down revelers, killing at least 15 and injuring dozens. So that all occurred in that very short ride on Bourbon Street, which was about a block and a half. And then at that point, it crashes into a vehicle, and the suspect engages in a shootout and is killed by the police. He also wounds 2 police officers. What it doesn't show are the 2 other sites that I pointed out to you that are a block and a half and another block and a half ahead on Bourbon Street, where there was a pipe bomb in a cooler, and then further ahead, a pipe bomb with nails in it and C4 explosives in a cooler. Now, why they're hiding that, I don't know. But they sure as hell have to explain that if they want to definitively insist that they've already proved the negative, that there was no involvement of anyone else in this. You are looking at 4 of the 15 or victims. Who knows if it'll be more. The young lady that you see with the graduation uh, gown on is Nikra Cheyenne Dido, who's only 18. She graduated from high school in Mississippi, and she was going to a nursing school in right near New Orleans. And she had come with her cousin, Zion Parsons, to enjoy the New Year celebration. Altogether, she was killed. That's the 15 people. 2 Israeli citizens were killed. A little girl who had been dancing just moments before was killed. A star football player. This was very. It's like it's like the World Trade Center and October 6th. These are just innocent people going about their lives, and there's no reason for this to happen other than the malevolent ideology that spawned this. And don't run away from it, because we've been doing that for too long, and this has been going on for too long. Her mother, Melissa, said she didn't even know that she had gone. And she said, it's quoted here, "It's got to make it cry. I just want to see my baby." The mom's only 40. Kid was 18. She was at Blue Cliff College. She was described, Nikra was described as a little ball of sunshine. In that picture, she looks kind of tall, but maybe she wasn't. The young man at the top is Tiger Betch. If you can go back and show him, Tiger. That's Tiger right there. Tiger Betch. Tiger was a graduate of St. Thomas More Catholic High School in Lafayette. That's in Louisiana, about an hour and a half away. He was an all-star player at Lafayette. He was on scholarship to Princeton, where he also played football. He graduated with a degree in finance. He was 28 years old, and he worked in New York at a finance company as a trader. And he was there to celebrate the New Year. And I assume to enjoy the Sugar Bowl, the game between Notre Dame and Georgia. His older brother, he's the older brother of Jack Betch, who's a standout wide receiver now for Christian University. And he wrote, "Love you always, brother. You inspired me every day, and now you get to be with me every moment. This is for us." This gentleman is a father of 2 who comes from not so far away state capital Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He was there for New Year's and also for the Super Bowl, the Sugar Bowl. The Sugar Bowl game, he was there with a friend, and he was killed, struck by a car. Now he leaves behind 2 young children, one 18 months and one 12. Reminds me of the funerals I used to go to. On September 11, the worst ones were when the little children were there, and you would have to explain to them why they would never have a daddy. That is Reggie Hunter. I mean, look what nice looking people too. Look, just very. I don't know if you can tell from a face, but they look like completely innocent, nice looking people. And the woman at the bottom is Nicole Perez, who was 27. She was celebrating New Year's with friends. She was rushed to University Hospital, where she died. And she's a young mom who leaves behind a 4-year-old son, Mello, who's going to have to live the rest of his life without a mother because this maniac decided he was going to kill people for ISIS. She worked at a deli in, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Metairie, which is more of a suburb. The other are separate cities of New Orleans. And she had just been named a manager. Also, Karen Badawi, who was a graduate of Episcopal School, died from neck injuries sustained in the attack. She went to the Episcopal School in Baton Rouge. Hubert Gathrio, who was an alma mater of Archbishop Shore High School in Marrera, Louisiana. He was only 21. And Matthew Tenedorio, who came from Mississippi, was an audio-visual technician who worked at the Superdome and therefore was going to be working on the Sugar Bowl and eventually the Super Bowl, and was considered quite expert. What do we know about Shamsuddin Jabbar, the murderer? Well, we know that at some point in his life, he seemed to be quite a normal guy. I mean, he graduated from college. He had a job with various financial institutions. His last job was with Deloitte from 2021 as a senior solution specialist. He at one point started a real estate company. There's a video, I think in 2020, in which he's selling the company, not selling it. He's inviting people to use his real estate company. Looks like a button down, straight businessman. And the little that has been gotten so far, is that he made a switch at some point and became a faithful Muslim. He quoted often from the Quran. There is a mosque within 2 blocks of his house in the Houston district that he lived in, but whether he belonged to that mosque or not, we don't know. He did have military service, including a war deployment, a college degree from a state university, and he worked at Accenture, Ernst & Young, and Deloitte. And in that promotional video, he stressed his work ethic and his dedication to basic values, and it seemed like the furthest thing from an extremist Muslim at that point, and that was in 2020. He emphasized his Texas roots and his service in the Army. He grew up in the city. Originally, he grew up in the city of Beaumont, Texas. He was married for a period of time. He had 2 daughters. He joined the Army in 2006. He's deployed to Afghanistan in 2009. He served there 11 months. He left as a staff sergeant, went into the reserve, and then he was honorably discharged. He was making $125,000 a year. He had a second marriage, and he separated from her. They rejoined and then divorced again. And that's the background until we get to how did he become an adherent of ISIS and a Muslim extremist. We don't know exactly how that transformation took place. But by the time we get to December 31st of 2024, he's doing 3 or 4 Facebooks in which he's talking about killing people, and he's talking about the Islamic cause. Do we have any of those Facebooks, or were they just talked about by the agent, Ted?
They were just talked about.
Yeah. They haven't come out yet. Obviously, we'll show them to you as soon as we see them. But these were happening seems like these were happening as he was, maybe while he was driving. One is like just a short while before he actually starts driving up Canal Street, in which he talks about his allegiance to ISIS, his allegiance to to Islam, the terrible things that are being done to Islam. They were described in a very generic kind of way, which of course makes clear that that ISIS flag was not there just by accident. Now, where oh, that's him. That's him there doing his video on real estate with the word discipline in back of him. We don't have any videos yet of him in his new
responsive and take everything
role
seriously, dotting I's and
as
crossing
a
T's to make sure that things go
extremist.
off without Texas, and now live in Houston. And I've been here all my life, with the exception of traveling for the military, where I spent 10 years as a human resources specialist and IT specialist, where I learned the meaning of great service and what it means to be responsive and take everything seriously, dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that things go off without a hitch. So I've
Now
taken those skills and applied them to my
I think you
career
get
in
the
Texas.
point.
And
I think you get the point from that at that point he seems to be a normal guy. Certainly wasn't a normal guy by December 31st, 2024, when he was in that car and when he did the Facebook reels that have been described to us. We haven't seen them yet. Now, across the country, a couple of hours later, another man drove a cyber tech car up to the entrance to the Trump Hotel and blew it up. One would have to say, how does that happen? There's the car blown up right there. If you want to look at it, Ted. There's the car when it originally exploded. And then shortly after the explosion, you see small firecrackers and fireworks going off. The interesting thing is, I'm looking at the windows of the and the door of the Trump Hotel. Maybe it happened later, but it doesn't seem like they were. There's a little hole. Is there a hole in the bottom there? You certainly don't see any major gap there, and you wonder what he was doing. Elon Musk and the sheriff, even before Elon said this, said that that was a very kind of useless car to use for the purpose he used it, because it's so heavy and so well contained. It didn't explode itself and open up, in which case it would have done a lot more damage to the entrance to the hotel and possibly kill people that might be there. But that car kept the shrapnel and whatever else was going to shoot out contained. I can't imagine that the objective here wasn't to drive into the hotel. I mean, what a car like that could do, probably more effective than others, is to drive into the hotel. So here are the connections so far with New Orleans. He rented that vehicle from Toro app. Toro is an app that many people use, so that doesn't really particularize it all that much. Just could be just a coincidence. Just like Jabbar was able to rent it from Toro app. The second thing, which became quite an issue of excitement this morning, is that they were in Afghanistan at approximately the same time in the military, but they weren't in the same unit. And there is no indication they met each other or knew each other. Except it's just a very strange situation that they rented from the same source and they were in Afghanistan at the same time. But again, there were a lot of people in Afghanistan at that time, and there's no evidence of a connection. This guy has been identified, and the early indications are this could be political. Now, what tells you that? Elon Musk's car, Donald Trump's building. I mean, it's a hypothesis. It's not a fact, but it's a pretty strong one, isn't it? When you consider that from the little bit we've learned about the gentleman who did it, he may have had some political connections. Now, this is some of the debris that was left over and seen in the car. I think I can make out, looks like a gas can. I can see some more fireworks that either had exploded or didn't explode, or off to the top right there. I mean, it looks like he didn't get to use everything that he had. And again, it's a very strange. I mean, if you look at it on its face, he just parks in front of the Trump Hotel and kills himself. It's going to be a difficult one to figure out. Now we have the name of the guy, right, Ted? Pardon me?
We do.
I'm gonna take a short break. I'll give you a little time to pull up what we have about him, so we don't, because it was only recently that they decided to release the name, and this occurred about we could say about 3 hours after. Both in the morning hours. This was the early morning hours in Las Vegas when it occurred. I think it was around 8:40. I shouldn't say early morning. Well, for Las Vegas, that's the early morning hours after New Year's. We'll be right back. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with you on America's Mayor Live. So, Take a short break.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax, channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
This is Rudy Giuliani, and I'm back on America's Mayor Live. Unfortunately, tonight we have to cut it short a bit because I have to go to New York for one of my Giuliani Live. Unfortunately, we have to cut off a little bit earlier tonight because I have some things I'm required to do. But we will be on tomorrow. We'll make up for the extra time, and we will, of course, be following this very, very closely. Of course, I have great interest in everything law enforcement, and I do know quite a bit about it. And still, no one has really focused on those two other areas where there were explosives for which there is no explanation. I suspect that by tomorrow, even more facts will come out quickly. The other news is Trump is backing Johnson 100%. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I had some conversations about this yesterday with. I had some conversations about it yesterday, and this is a no-brainer. We don't need this battle right now. I think Johnson is doing a good job, and I think Johnson should remain. But if you want to fight this out, fight it out in March after we get the president in place and he gets that first group of things done. Remember, we're preparing for next week, and we'll give you some hints about it. The 3 or 4 major issues Trump will have to confront, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We'll see if we're right about it, and I'll give you my perspective on it. And in addition to as much inside information that's appropriate that I can get for you. So you'll be ready for what might be the most exciting first 4 or 5 days ever. And also Russian gas cut off January 1st by Ukraine. Europe is getting no more Russian gas. The U.S. has attempted to buy Greenland before. So and the U.S. has bought 40% of the United States, and other countries have done the same. So this idea of sovereign purchases is maybe kind of older, but not at all inappropriate. And one of the major countries that sold property is the shocked Denmark. Do you know they sold us Virgin Islands? Hypocrisy abounds everywhere. I have to show you as we cut out, there was a terrible, terrible horror in the subways that would be terrorism if it were, for a group or something. And it happened right before New Year's. This illegal migrant alien burned a woman, a homeless woman, on the subway. So now this is the woman 25 years ago, but I want you to take a look at this lovely woman that was killed by being burned to death on a New York subway by a Biden invitee to the United States, who fits into the category of we don't know how he came back in. Nobody's giving you numbers for that. We don't know how they came in. This guy who killed her, the Post described it as Beauty and the Beast. Her name is Debrina Kawam, known as Debbie to her classmates from Passaic Regional High School. She had an early life that was very full and very complete, and then something went wrong, and we don't know exactly what. And she became homeless, and she was in a homeless shelter from September until December 2nd. She was killed by the Guatemalan illegal alien Sebastian Zapata Khalil, who set her on fire on December 22nd at the Coney Island station, Stillwell Avenue, Coney Island station of the New York subway. And Mayor Adams, who half the time agree with and half the time are angry at and whatever, but he really should stop telling us how safe the subways are, since they came pretty close to having a record number of murders last year. And they started off the new year with 2 more attacks right away. Of course, the newspapers make a big deal out of it, and it doesn't make anybody feel safe. So pray for the people of Ukraine and pray for the people of Israel. Relief is coming quickly, God willing. Pray for the people of Iran. Freedom may be coming. Who knows? And pray for all these people who died as the victims of insane, mindless, and horrible, evil terrorism. We gave you a few examples. We'll give you a few more. We'll maybe cover some of their funerals, and because when I think back on September 11, it's always the loss of innocent life that I just can't get my mind around, the fact that a man comes in the morning, or a woman, they open up their computer and now they're gone. They never knew why. And the why is a why that still exists, that we haven't done anything about. Oh, we have done a lot about it, but not consistently. A lot under Bush, basically nothing under Biden, under Obama. Let it come back, so that Trump had to take out the JV ISIS. And then under Biden, we invited this. Well, we pray for the people of New Orleans. I hope the Super Bowl goes off really. I wish them both well, but I wish that Jesus' team wins. You figure out which is Jesus' team. God bless America.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're